Pardon? These
No,
are reference?
This is Winnie.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
You're,
yeah, no,
you're
no,
in Kansas seat.
sorry, half a
No, we're restructuring Bramble and Brine
Yeah,
for
yeah.
winter, and
yes.
it's gonna have more, we're gonna cater to the community.
Great.
And we really cater to the community and make it more happy hour,
Oh,
more,
And Janet's over there sitting, she's coming to the happy hour. And
You know what I really wanted to do was
You
bring
gotta
back
go
the
to
historical society and
responsibility.
do the murder mystery night once a month.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I know, I like it.
That was something
Thank
that they used to do.
They did.
That,
they did it a
what's her
long
name?
time ago.
I just saw Lisa. Lisa did that. Also.
Well, let's do it. That's what I keep saying. We're gonna have some fun stuff.
Have you talked, you know Lisa, right?
Lisa Berlin?
Posted on
She's the one who owns the nectar.
Oh, yeah, Megan knows her very well.
Well, that's where it came from. She
Okay,
brought it in.
well, that's why I said I want to do this.
Okay, let's get started.
Okay.
Because everybody's got someplace else to be, but this is where we are right now, so we're gonna take it from there. Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Finance Committee. And you've all had an opportunity to look at the stuff that we sent out. I don't intend to get into it in heavy detail, but I do need some thought processes. So the bottom line is that if we don't get where we need to go today, then we'll consider what else we have to do to get in detail on some of this, okay? So I'm going to follow the agenda to the T. So I'm going to simply ask if there anyone who's had an opportunity to look at the minutes. And if you've looked at the minutes, I'll go one by one and get your approval on them. So let's deal with the minutes that you have for April. Any comments?
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
I thank you. All right, let's look at the minutes for August.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I thank you. And the very last one. Can I get a motion for 10:13 minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept them. Second.
Okay, so we've done that. I appreciate it all. Okay, now you've all had an opportunity to look at the FY 2023 budget. And since that is Ellen Lorraine's forte, I'm gonna let her take you down there.
Okay, so in your packet is included the budget for FY 23. You will see a corrected page 1. There was a mathematical correction. So the paper you have for page 1 has been corrected and just needs to be replaced with the page 1 that you previously had.
Okay.
So on the FY 23 budget, Anne-Marie and myself will review the actual numbers as the fiscal year progresses and compare them to budget. And if we see that revenues aren't coming in as budgeted or expenditures are either more or less, we recommend an amendment to the budget. And that's what you have before you today. It's the two-sided document. Should be in front of your budget for FY 23. And what this is showing you is line items that we recommend be amended. And they're grouped by fund. So in the very beginning, you're going to see an amendment to the general fund, which is moving the transfer tax surplus, the county transfer tax surplus that has been awarded to the city out of the general fund and moving it to the 1.5% transfer tax fund. The next fund adjusted we're recommending be amended is the municipal street aid. And there again, we are reducing prior year reserves because of some reductions in expenditures, mainly being the utilities, because that is where we are paying the street lights electric bill from. And we are increasing funding for a street project, phase 26, but we're also reducing and removing a project, beach lighting. And this would be at the Savannah Beach and Johnny Walker beaches.
2026, you said, you've got a project coming?
This would be phase 26, street
Oh, phase
improvement.
26, okay.
Yes. So under the reason column, that explains why we are recommending the amendment.
Okay.
If we are reducing an expense or if we are increasing an expense. Then we're making adjustments to the general capital projects fund because we are able to realize a reduction in expenditures. If you flip over on page 2 of that, a lot of the amendments to the budget are coming out of the 1.5% transfer tax fund. We were recognizing that transfer tax revenue was not being realized as we had previously budgeted. So we needed to make the adjustment to reduce the transfer tax budget revenue. When we do that, that means we either draw more on reserves to complete the list of expenditures or projects that were budgeted, or we reevaluate the expenditures and say, do we see that this project is going to be done in the fiscal year 23? Are expenses for a particular project coming in higher than we had thought? So that's what we are doing. So we have removed some projects. We have updated the budgets for other projects, and those that we have updated the budget for are for the grant money that the city has received. One being the transfer tax money from the county, the 500,000 that we moved from the general fund, it's now in transfer tax, in addition to the state funding that we received for improvements to Canal Front Park. So we received 500 from the county, we received 500,000 from the state for a combined 1 million. So we need to reflect expenditures equaling $1 million to show that we've expended that money. So that's where you'll see under the construction account, which is 460, 590, 5475, you'll see a big explanation as to what adjustments are being done in that. But in the end, what this will do is reduce the need for prior year reserves. And so if you look at line 460, 499, 0000, this says prior year reserves. When the FY23 budget was approved, we were going to be pulling 1.4 million, almost 1.5 million from prior year reserves. Because we're reducing the transfer tax revenue, we want to be mindful that we are doing projects very strategically. And so therefore we are reducing our need on prior year reserves. So we are recommending that we go from 1.482 million to 689,000. The last fund we are adjusting is Fisher Martin House, and that is, we do have investments. As everyone is aware, the investment values have been going down. And so this just shows an adjustment to the value of the investments in the Fisher Martin House. This budget amendment will go before council Monday night on the 14th. But we wanted the finance committee to have it ahead of time to understand what proposal we were putting forward and be able to ask questions.
Do you have any questions at this time? Finished? Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, we're going to follow. Right from there into C2 update. I recently adopted Chapter 150 rental licensing. I don't know. I can assume that you've been probably following the short-term, long-term rental. Should I make that assumption of what's been going on? So I don't have to start from scratch. Okay, well, it was one thing to have that on the books. It's another thing to not have had regulations, and it's another thing to have to go back and figure out just how we're going to put licenses on this. So you've had a chance to read this. Now, this is thicker than I need to deal with, but you've had a chance to read this, and this is just simply saying that this is our end product. And this has the penalties here too, doesn't it?
It has the framework for the penalties. The amounts for the penalties are in the fee schedule.
But is there anything that needs to be clarified for anybody in terms of what that ordinance was all about?
So where are you, Carolyn, as far as the approval process on this? Is this approved or pending approval or?
It went before the council and it's been approved.
And just bring me up to speed, where are we with the fees and the fines and all that? That's not here, correct?
No,
The fee for the rental license for both short-term and long-term will be $200. Right now, it's $83, so that is an increase. The fines, a first violation is a first violation is just a written warning. If they don't make the corrections, then it's $250. After that, it's $500 for each violation. We don't expect to have a lot of fines, few if any. So I think that the main thing is the licensing fee. And then what we talked about was coming back after we've got a year of data under our belts to look at how we might possibly adjust the gross receipts rental tax to have a different tax rate for long-term versus short-term. But right now, since we haven't differentiated, we don't even know what that would be. So,
Well, you're going slow.
yes,
Right. This was only adopted in the last month,
right,
so kind of phasing it and then we'll reevaluate.
exactly.
Probably revisit this maybe summer of next year. What kind of time frame would you suggest? Because you'll have the tax in for 2022, you'll have it in by February or March.
I think if we look at it in the summer, the other
I
thing
thought September we were talking, right?
is,
That's what
I
we
think the
we
main
are.
goal is to identify how many short-term rentals do we have, how many long-term rentals
Right.
do we have? And when we have that information, then we can see what kind of change impacts
Correct.
the gross
intended
rentals.
We couldn't do
period
anything
of
for
time.
summer.
To do just that, to go back and look
evaluate.
at, yes.
So-
We're in a fact gathering
Of course,
phase.
and that's a wise approach. But on the business license, on the renewal, is there a place to indicate short term?
So the whole
Yes.
renewal,
All been revised.
It's
the
been
whole process,
revised, yes. But we don't have that. I could.
I don't need to rehash it. You guys. already-
But yeah, no, we
It
have
was
revised that.
long work.
that
we're in the
law.
process of
Yeah.
finalizing the form and the process. We've got a letter that will be going out. I think we decided by the end of the month, that will be with the renewals. We will be inviting the license holders to a workshop where we can, or an informational meeting, whatever we call it, where they can ask questions, we can answer their questions, and so the renewal for the coming year, instead of being standard renewal, will be more an implementation of the new program.
Great, thank you.
yes.
Hi, Tim, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, how are you?
Oh, good. And Richard, welcome. It's, the screen is not the clearest, but I realize that you're there too. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm. Tim, you want to go over your investment information for us? How do you want to handle it?
So what I wanted to do is just kind of quickly go through markets, kind of where we are right now, kind of what we see next year, and then make a suggestion that we've already talked about for the reserve and the general addition accounts, both those buckets, and go from there. That's all right with you guys.
Okay, your time.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, it's been a incredibly difficult year for the markets. There's been really nowhere to hide this year. Both stocks and bonds have gone down, which typically doesn't happen. It's been the worst start for the stock market since the 1970s. And we haven't had both stocks and bonds go down since, the mid 80s. So a bit of an anomaly. The market is being completely driven by inflation, sticky inflation, and the Fed raising rates. And so, as we all know, the market hates uncertainty, And right now there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. So, we don't know if the Fed is going to raise rates too much in order to drive us into recession. It seems seems clearer that they are going to over tighten and send us into recession next year. But we still are waiting on data points. Okay, so we had a really good inflation print today, which inflation came in less high than expected. So that's one data point. It's backward looking. The Fed wants to see multiple months of lower inflation prints. Okay, so, but the market is hinging on, okay, are they going to change their language? Are they going to pivot? Are they going to not raise rates by 0.75% in December and maybe only raise rates by 0.5%? Are they going to continue to raise rates next year? So if the Fed decides that they're going to change their language, pivot, kind of pick their head up a little bit, look around, look at the underlying data to see what's going on, that could drive the markets higher. But we are pretty bearish on next year, UBS is, because we still feel as though that earnings expectations are too high. We think that the Fed's going to continue to raise rates throughout the end of this year and probably through the first quarter of next year. And we should see some sort of bottoming process in, the end of the second quarter, maybe, middle of third quarter, where we think the Fed is going to have to start lowering rates again. So, as rates go up, it affects companies' margins, and so earnings are going to go down, and we just don't see that priced in right now. We still see a lot of companies out there that are very expensive looking at where rates are. So, but we do feel as though, we'll be out of the recession by the end of 2023, all right? The contrarian view is if we turn to midterm elections, okay, the market was down yesterday because there was a lack of, information about who is going to be controlling Congress. But if you look at the contrarian view and looking at history, the market has never been down after a midterm election, 6 and 12 months after that. So that's the contrarian view. We haven't, the big problem that we're having right now is that we expanded our balance sheet by, $3 trillion. We've got a tremendous amount of liquidity and cash out in the system that the Fed is trying to get out of the system. And so that's taking time. That's making inflation very, very sticky. Looking under the hood a little bit, housing is slowing very, very rapidly. You've got a 30-year mortgage now at 7%. And talking with a lot of business owners, they're going to start laying people off, which that's what the Fed wants. They want to see unemployment rate go up, okay, as well as inflation come down. So things are definitely slowing. Talking to real estate agents, I know obviously the Lewes market is very, very hot, but talking to a lot of real estate agents in the Annapolis area and in other areas that have seen tremendous amount of growth, they're saying that, business is pretty slow right now. So, the Fed is also looking to slow the housing market as well. So, the ironic thing here is that good news is bad news for the market, right? And if you think about where we were, during the pandemic, if there was any type of bad news, the market would go down. So it's an interesting time to say the least. That being said, there are a lot of opportunities out there. And one of the suggestions that I made when I met with the committee, about a month ago, with the reserve funds and the general addition bucket, was to take the money out of the ultra short mutual funds that they are currently invested in and redeploy that money into a short-term government bond portfolio. Right now, because bonds have gone down, okay, the price of the bonds are.
Right now, Tim.
Excuse me?
Oh, you said bonds have gone down. What is it right now?
So so an example is what I'm proposing, okay, is we would be buying government bonds, okay, that are very, very short in duration, okay, so less than a year. Okay, so we're able to buy these bonds at a discount. So if a bond is issued at $100, we're buying some of these bonds at $95, $96, $97, $98. And if you hold the bonds till maturity, they mature at 100. Okay, so they mature at par. And so we're able to buy these bonds at a discount, and they're giving us a yield of 4.67%. versus the ultra short funds, which are giving us a yield of 1.18 right now. So it has given us a little bit of an opportunity here to continue to upgrade the overall quality, government bonds, and to buy things at a discount. And with the expectations that they, will mature at their issued rate of 100.
What's the cost of buying the bonds at a discount when you say, I know we pay a UBS fee?
Mhm.
Do we also get a discount from UBS? How's that working?
So it's just part of the fee. So there's no commissions or anything like that to buy these bonds at a discount. It's an actively managed portfolio. Okay, so there's no fees to do that.
No fees, okay. So the discount is passed right along to the city of Lewes.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, obviously the market's having a good day today. The portfolio's up, call it 0.4% for the month of November so far. But again, I think that there's going to be some more volatility ahead. And so, we monitor the portfolio, all the time. We meet with the committee on a quarterly basis to go over how we're doing. And if any changes are made, we always reach out to you guys immediately. And that is one of the reasons why I'm here, because I'm making that recommendation.
And with the control of Congress kind of up in the air, probably until the beginning of December, how does that affect? How does that level of uncertainty where, you've got now a month of not knowing what the government's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, right? So the short answer is it's going to create volatility, right? I mean, because there's the unknown, right, of who's going to be controlling Congress. Let's just say that the Republicans take control of Congress. That's going to create gridlock in DC. Historically, that's good for the market because that means that nothing's going to get done, essentially. Okay, and that the president is going to have to, be more bipartisan. And so traditionally that's good for the market. But again, until we get to that point, we're not going to know, there's going to be volatility within the market. But I really do think that the market is more focused on the stickiness of the inflation and the path of the Fed. And once we get some more, more data and more certainty around that, I think that's what the market is really looking at.
So from Lewis's perspective, knowing that you have the clients, are you putting them into protection mode under the volatility? Is that why we're moving bonds into bonds?
Well, we've always been in bonds, okay, but what we're doing, from the city's point of view is, we're continuing to upgrade quality, right, and taking advantage of something that is, that we don't normally have. We haven't been able to get any type of yield from bonds in 12 years, right? I mean, we've been, everybody's been stretching, for yield, stretching for income, and so that's part of the opportunity in terms of our other, in terms of my other clients. Yeah, I mean, listen, our portfolios have always been defensive in nature. They've always been income driven. I'm a huge believer in growing dividends, buying companies that have always, raised their dividend no matter what is happening within the market. I firmly believe in getting paid to take risk. Okay, so right now, it's always been an upgrade in quality when we can continue to upgrade the quality. And so with all of our other clients, that's, we're doing the same thing. We're selling the bond funds and we're, investing in the treasuries. And continuing to upgrade quality and on the equity side with, dividend paying stocks.
Thank you.
Tim, what is the rate the city's paying for fees?
0.8%, which we reduced last
Thank-
meeting.
How about our conversation we had, Yell, about adjusting that? What was that?
I think that's the adjusted
That's
rate.
the new adjustment.
Yep, that's the new rate.
Mhm.
Do we have to do paperwork on that to you or you?
Nope.
Yo, okay.
So Tim, you're looking for action from the committee to make the switch to do those government bond securities?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
have you already done it?
No, I have not done it because I haven't gotten the approval from you guys.
Okay.
How short is short though on the bonds? Are they, you said less than 1 year?
Yep, less than 1 year.
Okay. And we're going into a recession,
Yes.
so that's safety in my opinion.
But we approved this, didn't we?
Well, we discussed it. It didn't come to the finance committee, so I don't think any official action's been taken. We discussed it when we met with him, but that was administrative.
Okay, so we need to take the next step, which is us and
Mhm.
the decision on this. So give me your gut on this, guys, so that we can move forward.
I think we do it because of the unknown for as long as it's short term.
Yeah, and it's a security.
And he said it's, we're probably going to be in recession in 2023. The analysts that I'm hearing, it could be 16 to 18-month recession. Is that what you're hearing or more? So, I mean, we can always readdress the bonds when they come due.
Mhm.
Whether we get as good, it's all a risk factor, but I think protection is where we need to go.
I do too. Jim, what do you say?
I'm fine, but Tim, how does the short-term yield, how does it differ for something a little longer term?
So the yield curve is inverted right now, right? So you're getting a lot more yield from a 2-year treasury than you are from a 10-year treasury. So that's why we like it short right now. And then of course it moves, as the Fed continues to raise rates. So that's why you're seeing, very good rates on short-term CDs right now. So I mean, like right now you can get a 12-month CD. We saw one from Sandy Spring Bank for 4.65% for 12 months. I just got one today from a bank in California, 3-month at 4%. So, we're really benefiting from obviously the short end of the curve being, being higher than the long term, the longer side of the curve, 10-year.
Does it make
So the
sense?
10 years below 4% right now.
Does it make any sense for us to look at a CD investment if you could get the institution to collateralize it?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on, your time horizon and what you want to do. But certainly that's, a good option as well.
At 4% or 4.2?
I think you said 4, didn't you?
Well, I mean, so we've got, I saw one this morning at 4%, okay, for a 3-month. Let me just look really quickly.
You're the expert. Yeah, we need to know where to do on this.
I mean, the risk, I guess, is obviously, you're going to only be insured up to the FDIC limit unless,
Right.
unless the institution would collateralize it with,
Back to back.
yeah, which obviously isn't FDIC, but it's probably with, investments from the bank. So I don't know, Tim, whether you even see that anymore. You used to see it some, but I'm not sure that's even available.
Yeah, I would have to check on that.
So how much money is it that we're
Baby.
talking about?
So Tim, we're talking about the additional account, correct? Or the additional and reserve?
I was talking about both the additional and the reserve, but again, we can always change change it up. It does, you know, it doesn't matter to me. I'm really looking for guidance from you guys.
So the balance of those, both of those accounts at the end of
Are-
September was 3.1-ish in that category, right? I didn't add them up, but one is a balance of 853,000. The other has a balance of 2.3 million.
Yes.
The small one in a CD, what would you think? You think
Yeah.
it's for 3 months?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's a smaller amount, I
Right.
know.
And yeah,
I wouldn't play with the big one.
right. But you know.
For
it's
3 months,
4
what do you
months,
think?
4%.
well, I mean, I would defer to Tim. He's the expert. I mean, that's what we're paying. Well,
Well, we
What
use
do you
you
think,
too.
Tim? The smaller amount for a CD?
Well, so remember, we've got $250,000 worth of FDIC. So we could build out a ladder for sure, you know, and, you know, I just need direction from you guys as to what you wanted to do for the small account. If you wanted to, you know, do a 12-month ladder and we buy a, 12-month CD, a 9-month CD, a 6-month CD, 3-month CD, we can certainly do that. I just, we need to be mindful of the $250,000 FDIC insurance.
Can we
Right.
go and spread the 250 with, 3 different bonds? I mean, 3 different CDs, I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then they're FDIC approved for all 3, right?
Would be.
So why wouldn't we try to find 3 CDs at the 4% for short term?
Yeah,
And
we
then
can
we know
certainly do
we're
that.
insured.
We can do that.
And what is there a fee behind that? Or we're still
There shouldn't
based on
be.
that
There shouldn't be.
8%?
Uh, Based on the fee that you guys pay, correct?
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So it's not additional.
Yeah.
It's 3.
So what do you think? 3,
I like
I would do
that.
3 different CDs or 2, however you wanted to.
3 different banks.
Mhm.
He just named 2,
Yeah.
so find us one more.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I have to look into inventory. Okay, so, yeah.
Tim, just for clarification, because I think on this committee, there's a different process of Tim buying brokered CDs than, let's say, you go into a bank. He's not going to go to a bunch of different banks. He's going to see an inventory with probably hundreds of different products. And so he's going to be in a position to consistently, when a CD comes due, turn around and buy treasury or whatever. It could be 3-month, 4-month, 6-month, depending on the yields. The yields change.
Yes,
Even
of
since I
course.
walked into this
Right.
meeting, the yield was different at 9 o'clock than it might be right now.
Mhm.
So we have to give Tim some
We are.
limited liberty to do the best deal, excuse me, just for a moment, to find the best rates for us within a certain confined period of time. But the other thing is, I want to clarify, Tim, who do you take direction from relative to changing a policy? For example, the short-term bond funds to direct investments like the CDs and the like. Is it administration? Is it this committee? Is it a council person?
Oh.
Let me just clarify that with you. Tim?
We can't hear you, Tim.
I believe.
I don't know.
Tim,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
now we can.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, for some reason, something happened with my microphone. Sorry about that.
All right.
Tim, did you hear my question?
Yeah, so I typically take direction from the committee.
Okay.
That's the way it's always been done in the past.
And that's insurance. Yeah, that's your decision. I mean, we had asked that question, I think, back in the beginning of September about who you took direction from. We thought we had already authorized, administration had already given you the authority to move forward on this type of policy. 6 weeks later, we find out we're not,
Yeah, we thought.
haven't already authorized it. So that's why I'm asking for the clarification, because I think.
Okay,
it's
so
really-
yeah, because what do we need to do if this is what we want to do?
Are you looking for a motion?
I'm just looking for you guys to say, please go ahead with the recommendation.
Okay, the other thing I want clarification of is with the change in fees, can we get something in writing
Yeah, that's
that
what I asked.
validates that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would like that. That's it. That's really important for the continuity of this committee.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so given that we all are on the same sheet of music and this is what we want to do, EL, your thoughts?
So what I hear the committee recommending is to do 3 separate CDs
Mhm.
with the additional money in the general fund. I did not hear what they wanted with the balance to go forward with the treasuries.
I mean, as we were talking short term for the
Oh, 23.
government bonds, right?
Yes,
And that's the larger amount of money.
yes, that was the focus.
But we were also talking short term, we have to put a time frame where what works best for Lewis and Tim to find in his inventory a short-term CD, because if the interest rates are going up, then we want to capture what's going up every 3 months or every 6 months, right? So I guess what he's looking for is for us to give him the go-ahead to supply the money into a short term, whichever direction we go, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So if you want to make a motion on how you want to take those 2 accounts, Carolyn,
yes.
that's you.
Okay, the verbiage needed is just simply make a motion.
Well, it shouldn't be Carolyn making the motion.
No,
It should-
somebody's got to
that's what-
make it, and I have to come back in. No, I
It
can't.
should not be.
It
She's
shouldn't
the
be.
chair.
No, it
It
can't be me.
Now she can serve. Okay.
There we go.
It's got to be somebody who knows what they're
Yeah, and
saying
that-
here.
yeah.
That would be
All
good,
right, so
right?
I would make the motion that we, following the discussion that we just had, to look for the 3 CDs, FDIC insured to the limit, and then the balance of the funds into the type of investment that Tim's recommending.
What's the value of each of those funds that we're parsing out?
So one account has 853,000 at the end of September, that we have to look at current value. And then the other fund has 2.3
I
million.
mean,
So for the 800,000, what are we asking Tim to do? The 3 CDs?
yes,
And what are we asking him to do, if anything, for the 3.1 million?
nothing.
Okay. So the 3.1 remains
The 2.3. The 2.3 and 853 are the 2 numbers we're dealing with.
Oh, sorry. Okay. 2.3 remains unchanged. There's no movement on that.
That's
And-
correct.
I think you-
And what return are we getting on that?
Hold on for 1 minute. Go ahead, Jim.
It was, am I suggesting that the 2.3 be moved to the fund, the new fund that you're recommending? The
Right, the
government,
treasuries.
The government.
the
Short
government,
term.
Government, yeah.
yes. As opposed to leaving it where it is.
Right.
Yeah, because right now it's not doing anything.
But what is not doing anything? What's the number?
There's
0?
We're not-
1?
There's nothing where we're not doing anything.
Okay. So what is it that the 2.3 is currently doing?
So the 2.3, Richard, is in a ultra short bond fund, okay, that is giving us a yield of a little over 1%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The, what the suggestion is we're going into a government bond portfolio that's going to give us a yield to worst of 4.67%.
If it's, I thought you also said that at maturity, you would get back the 4% or 3% or 2% or 1%, depending upon circumstances that we don't control.
Correct.
Did
Correct. So we would be buying so a bond is issued at $100, okay, as an example.
Right.
And so we would be buying some of these bonds at a discount, meaning like at 95 cents, all right, or $95, okay?
Right.
Sure, at 100 in, less than a year. All right, so then we would get that $5 worth of appreciation at maturity.
So you have the choice of picking that 5% or 4% return for the full 2.3 million versus the 1% that it's currently yielding. Is that accurate? Am I
So
saying this correctly?
it's a diversified portfolio of treasuries. So we're going to own, some treasuries that are the treasury are going to mature every single month. Okay. And so they're going to be bought at different prices. Okay. And if you put all of that together, your yield is 4.67% on that bucket of money. Okay. With the ability of appreciation of the asset, meaning the bond maturing or buying the bond at a discount and maturing at par at 100. Okay, so our worst case scenarios, we're getting 4.67% in yield and income. Okay, but the bonds that we're buying at a discount are going to mature at 100, so we get that appreciation of the asset, the underlying asset.
And that's after a year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
I was just agreeing with what the gentleman was saying. With the bonds for the larger amount of money. And that's upon the committee.
So I can't make the motion, so.
So you want to make the motion?
So I thought I did, but I'll make it again.
No, he had a few questions, so we kind of got sidetracked.
Okay, so we would have two separate, with this, we would have two separate investment vehicles for the smaller amount, which is,
853.
okay. And realizing that if we just do 3 banks, there's going to be some little limited amount of non-FDIC insured money.
Right.
But anyway,
No, it has to be FDIC.
so then 750 would be if we're doing 3.
Okay, well, it has to be FDIC. We don't want to
Yeah.
play with that.
So then we should do 750 as well.
Whatever that number is.
We need 855 or what was it, 800?
It was 853.
853. So we just figure out what the CDs and the amount for safety of the FDIC insured.
Well,
Yes,
listen,
that-
Tim can pick 10 CDs to get.
Right, right, right.
Oh, we'll leave that part to
Yeah,
him then.
yeah.
We'll leave that to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Right.
just as long as it's FDIC insured.
As
Yes,
long as it's
correct.
insured, yeah.
Right, okay.
So the 850 bucket of money would go into FDIC insured CDs that would be determined and picked by Tim.
Right, correct.
The 2.3 would be invested in new account investment vehicle that he's discussing, the short-term.
Yeah, the government bond.
Government bonds.
Yeah, the ultra, right. And that's a 4.67.
So that's a motion. So we can second that now? You want to second that?
No.
I'm going to second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got it.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
And thank you all. Alrighty, let's move on to the next thing. You're up to the first year of the Lewes Line. You have it in front of you. And we have a meeting scheduled with, what's their time, Delaware?
The Delaware Transit Corporation.
Yeah, right. We have a meeting scheduled with them and the purpose of that meeting is to go over what our this pilot program did for the year and some ideas on what going forward. But I also like to have your ideas on, in looking at this and seeing where most of the, stops were and how we did. And in talking to a couple of folks, they said, well, maybe we should do that. So I want to use this time now for any thoughts you have as it relates to where you think this should go, change in any way, any ideas. So when I go into that meeting, I'm bringing in there your thoughts as well.
Carolyn, can we have Ellen Lorraine kind of go through what the total cost of the program was versus
Absolutely.
the revenues? Because I think,
The
one of the
starting
questions,
course, exactly.
right, one of the questions I was asked is, did we make a profit?
Mm.
Transit does not make money.
Right, exactly.
But I think that we were effective in staying within our operating budget and, attaining the revenue that we had anticipated. So
So hit it from a revenue deficit kind
Yeah.
of point of view. Okay.
So Anne Marie is correct. We did not we did not bring enough revenue to cover our expenditures. Obviously, with this being first year, we had a lot of capital outlay. It wasn't necessary to purchase the buses, but it was to provide GPS for the buses. It was to provide a camera system for those buses. And then besides capital, we had personnel costs. We had to find drivers with certain training, CDL requirements, and then paying them to work the hours of, I believe they came in at 8 and they left at 9 shortly thereafter. So if you go back to your
The
budget,
advertising.
we did. We had advertising. We were able to cover some of those costs with sponsorships. So we went out to businesses to ask if they wanted to buy an ad in each of the buses to promote their business so that when passengers were on the bus, they would see these businesses and they would also be given the exact location where they could find these businesses. And usually the stops aligned with those businesses. The other thing that we promoted was frequent rider cards. I don't think that they were as popular as we had thought they might be. And so that may be something we want to do differently next year. But in your budget report that we talked about earlier under C1, if you go to page 4 of that report. Now, this report is as of September 30th. That's when the buses ended. And if you look for account number 100, this is on page 3 of your budget document.
Okay.
Man, I've mixed mine up.
That's okay.
I'll just listen. I don't want to take time.
So page 3 details the revenues.
It's on this.
And we're looking for account 100-441.
Hold on, because I can't see.
I know this is kind of small.
100-441.
Yes, 0000. It's titled City Transit Program.
441 is not on that page.
It might be different than your page.
It's got a bold, it's bolded.
Yes.
Okay.
So that,
Okay, I got you. Here
that
it is.
is the
Yeah. give me-
revenue the city received from the transit program. And it's broken down into passenger fees, supporter revenue, which would be the advertisements.
Okay.
It would also include the frequent rider program. Now, one other revenue source that is not listed here because it was a grant received, the city received funding from the state of Delaware, $50,000. So that's going to be reported in a different line item, but we need to keep that in mind when we look at the total revenue received. So if we follow that line, city transit program all the way over to the right, and it would be the second column from the right, it says revenue as of the end of September was $29,331. So that was the revenue received. And then we have to add in the $50,000 grant revenue that the city received. The expenditures for that program can be found on page 9.
I don't know if I'm gonna try.
It's
so
not-
fun.
I mean,
I'm gonna listen.
We're
like magnifying over here.
My eyes, just saying. Page
So-
9, okay.
Okay,
This-
what number?
So this is going to come right after parking enforcement. So it should start with 100-511-0000, and it's city transit expenditures.
Here it is. Okay,
Okay.
we're with you.
And so at the end of September, expenditures for this program were 120,873.
Right here. Okay.
So yes, we didn't have revenue to cover expenses. However, the 50,000, the almost 30,000 contributed a lot to the
Yeah, that
net.
was- The 80,000
net loss.
contributed toward the 120.
Yes.
So how much
Okay.
did we make for advertising on behalf of getting that on the buses and then, and we had a grant for 50,000?
Right,
22,000.
Yes,
I was gonna say that.
22,600.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, I thought it was about that.
And how much are we short? I can't see. That's why I have to ask you. I apologize.
40,000.
40,000
Yeah,
short.
yeah, about 40.
So in order,
Given the fact that
Yes.
it's not a money-making thing from the,
right.
you know.
So in order to keep the city line, we have to come up with some type of income for that shortness.
Yeah.
So we have to think about that.
Well, and I don't expect the grant funding from the state to be a reliable, repetitive source.
No, I mean,
1,000 is
we have to,
guaranteed.
Right.
but we may be able to find something else out there.
So in the 120, does that include any of the capital expenditure or is that just operation?
Yes.
It does include, I tried to keep all the expenses for that program in these line items. So yes, that is all transit.
Yeah.
And the buses, I think we talked about, it was, the lease is $1.
$1 per bus per
you know,
year.
So that we can't get any better than that.
No.
That's like, that's a
Every
gift.
bus is that way?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah,
Who's our biggest advocate in order to get that $50,000 grant?
Ernie Lopez.
Yeah,
Okay. And, was Mike in there, you know, or no?
It really went through Ernie.
Okay, are we talking Hudson? or-
I have reached out to Russ just in general,
Yes.
not specifically about this, but he was very aware of Lewes Line and supportive of it during the season, just,
We
you know,
just tapped
not in a official state capacity, but
we'll let
certainly.
him get in office first.
So my concern with relying on state funds, the state's going to be dealing with some of the same issues that we're dealing with in terms of transfer tax. And what the state did when they had revenue surplus is they used that in the bond bill, and the community reinvestment fund was part of that. So with transfer tax down, I'm not sure how much of that funding will even be available statewide.
So I have a quick question and I'm not, so Lewis, knowing that we have to come up with more income for the city line, and it is an asset for Lewis as far as, you know, what we're all hearing,
Mhm.
everyone loves it. Is the town of Lewis allowed to have raffles on behalf of a certain thing, like the city line? Like if, let's say we have an old piece of equipment, like I know that Rehoboth sends their stuff to auction.
Okay.
Well,
So if we have something that we know is old or something that's coming due, can we allot that, like either an auction or a raffle, so we can put it towards the city line? I don't know if that's legal.
So we already do sell our surplus equipment, so
Right.
it would be diverting that from.
just taking money from one pot to put
We
it to another.
typically either reinvest it in the general fund or in the general capital projects.
Yeah, that's not,
So
that
it
would
would
not be
just-
considered additional money for us
Right.
because we're already.
Yeah,
dealing-
because you're already allocating that.
Yes, yes.
So raffles, is that legal?
We have to check with Glenn.
Yeah, because small townships that I'm familiar with, they do raffles to create money for certain township items that they
Okay.
want. So I don't know if that's legal or not.
Well, it's worth
And
looking
it
into.
might help us with income.
Mhm. Mhm.
Everybody loves a raffle.
Mhm.
So the 120 expense number, is that going forward, do you think that's a good number year to year?
I think after this season, there may be expenses that we might want to look at. So this season, we had drivers manually write down the number of people getting on and off the buses. With more volume, that may become an issue with the drivers. So we may need to look at a automatic counting system, which would do two things. It would alleviate the driver from manually doing it. Plus, it could provide real-time information to those wanting to ride it. So they could look on the app and see which buses are full, what stops are they currently at, where they might want to connect with the bus. So it could serve as a multi-purpose. That would be a pretty good cost to have that.
However, we do have things that we put in place that we don't have to do again.
Correct.
So we will be saving from that aspect.
Yes, so the buses have all been lettered. We would not have to do that next year. The number of drivers, we could look at different shifts. Maybe the schedules that they were working could be better utilized. Maybe they don't need to start as early or.
One of the things though, that we have gotten some requests is to get the buses more into the neighborhoods.
Right.
And if we do expand the route, then we may be looking at having 3 buses running instead of 2 in order to have the frequency enough to,
We've got several requests for various other neighborhoods.
And that would be running full-time all year, or are you still gonna be seasonal?
I think we're still looking to be seasonal.
Seasonal?
We haven't had anyone really, well, we had one person ask if we would run it all year, but you're talking about a lot of our drivers coming out of the school system.
Right.
And the availability of drivers would then become a real problem for us.
Okay.
And then if we brought somebody on full time, that's an additional expense that we can't take on. So. Just keep thinking about things, because the more you can give us the time frame we have now is when we should do that. And in our meeting in December, when we meet with DOT, whatever you
I
can
just
come
think
up
trying
with.
to create the income and, come up with any way, because the city line, they say any good business takes 3 years for it to really work.
Uh-huh.
And we did really well for the first year for just a small community gathering, and then people say, no, I'm going to jump on the Lewes line. But I think we got to keep it going. We can't stop.
Well,
So we got to come up with the money.
one thing that really jumps out at me as we look at the ridership, I think that there's an opportunity to really have a conversation with the DRBA
I was
about
just
their
gonna
level of
say that.
support, because I have to, right, I have to believe that there are more people coming from New Jersey by foot because we have
Yep.
this.
And you can see the increase on Second Street. It certainly has had a influence on
Well, the
their.
parking, that parking lot that we have in the back, I know that that's a whole new thing. The parking is a big deal in Lewis, and I know you all are working on it. But this is such a huge asset if we could get it to catch fire, where people can park back there and then have the bus pick them up and bring them downtown or take them to the ferry.
We need to advertise more, and we need to
About that
definitely deal with DRBA. And in terms of
Right.
more participation with us.
Yeah, I think, to follow up on your point, am I correct in saying Ted got appointed to the DRBA?
Yes, he
Yep.
is.
So it seems a likely conversation to have, but the other thing is, as crazy as this sounds, if the DRBA could actually sell these passes on the Jersey side, before people ever get on the boat.
Yes.
I mean, that would be fantastic.
Well, we thought about that.
Well, I mean, again,
Not
the
for the trial
DRBA
year,
used
right?
to operate
Right.
its own
Right.
shuttle,
Right.
and they don't anymore.
Ah.
So now people come off the ferry and they can get on a DART bus if they want to go to Rehoboth, if they want to go to the outlets, or they can get on the Lewes Line if they want to go downtown. So I do think that we, with this service, ended up filling a real important need for ferry passengers.
The DART
The
bus
3,000 worth.
from the ferry to Ellington.
It does, I don't know the route it goes.
But it's a long
Very-
time
it-
in waiting.
Right.
Yeah, it's not as fast as this.
But one of the things when we meet with the DART staff, the transit planners in early December, they want to talk about how we can better coordinate routes and service so that so we may find out that there's a lot that they learned and they're
Uh-huh.
transit experts.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
By watching the service. I mean, they have been very supportive and they have
Right.
really been keeping an eye on this.
That's because they even talked about this in terms of other communities.
I think that's great.
So,
That's really, really
Yeah.
great. I know that expanding, when you were talking about that, I think for just the locals alone, to get out to Weiss Market instead of,
mhm.
that's a good expansion. And then we're not allowed to go into the state parks, are we? We're not allowed to take the bus into the
I
state park
don't think so. So
unless we
um,
made an agreement.
yeah, we would
with-
need to get an agreement with state parks. Then you've got the issue of the traffic. But part of the issue with state parks is they get their money by people paying an entrance
Parking.
fee. So for bringing transit
yeah.
into the park goes against their revenue model.
There's a new restaurant coming though.
Well,
Don't-
yeah.
So we could take that transit and maybe just say we only drop off, but again.
And you got to get
then,
all
yeah,
the way
then,
out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
I'm
gonna pretend you
I'm
didn't
muddying
say.
the water. Yeah,
Yeah.
never mind.
Right. Okay, well, anyway, it's something that we will continue to talk about and we have time now before we go to our next, before this kicks off again next year, and we'll have another finance meeting in between that. So keep your thoughts flowing, keep your ideas going on this. And when we come at a dot, when we have our next meeting, which we're kind of scheduling like December 14th, as you can see, we can then go back and hit this again. And any other thing you think we need to put on our agenda, please feel free to pass that information into EL. She'll get us ready. So I feel good about this and I hope you do too. So let's just move on to the very last thing, which is what we have in our comprehensive plan is the issue of open space for the city. And funding it is a whole different ballgame. You can say you want something, but where does the money come to get that? So, any thought processes you have on how we should approach and go after that can be extremely helpful to us in any decision making. We don't specifically have the place in mind, but the very concept of open space is where the city would like to go. So, any thoughts on that, anyone?
Could I ask a couple of questions of administration?
Sure.
Okay, at this point, is there an open space committee? Like, do we have a master open space inventory?
there, so in terms of an inventory, the state maintains an inventory. So we would have access to the state's data.
I mean, is there an open space committee that looks at specifically within, not necessarily administration, but like a separate body, like the finance committee?
There's not for the city. There is a state open space council. There's a Sussex County Land Trust, but there is not a specific committee. We do have a Parks and Recreation Committee.
Yeah,
Um,
but
No, we
What-
do not have a committee specifically to look at this for the
What-
city.
when you tackle open space, it is such a wide open question. People assume it's under Parks and Recreation, but the reality is, are you using open space for water recharge? Are you using it for Parks and Recreation? Are you keeping it in natural format? There's so many issues.
Right.
Before you even get to financing, how you're going to purchase open space. We are such a small municipality. We don't know how much open space there is left to be purchased, and we may have some time constraints on when we can make those purchases. So another aspect here is, of course, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the opportunity to buy the open space or the funding? And one of the concepts that we had used in a prior government experience that I had was anticipation notes. And knowing that you're gonna, let's say we have a bond coming due that we're no longer gonna have to pay, using that anticipation note, requesting that money out, and basically in anticipation of the fact that we're no longer gonna have that bond. You may have an opportunity to buy open space in 2023 or 2024, and that bond isn't gonna be paid off until 2025 or 2026. That might be a short-term Band-Aid to allow us to buy that open space. But this is multi-factored, and you really, I think, need to start with an open space committee to look at all facets of open space acquisition, maintenance, retention, et cetera. So that's probably
That's a
not what
very
you
good
wanted to
point.
hear.
Mhm.
That's a really good point.
No, I
But-
hear what
but
you're saying.
What if we also did like Philadelphia? And that's just a really huge problem there, but they did do something to get their real estate from people and also to get people to purchase in Philadelphia, which was an abatement. Like, let's say I have a neighbor that has 5 acres next to me and we give them a 10-year abatement. Have we ever thought, or are we allowed to do that if they want to donate their property?
I don't know that we've even explored that.
Right.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, it's a big deal when there is some property left in Lewis. And if we gave them an incentive, like you live next door to this 7 acres, we'll give you an abatement of 10 years. we're tax-free. You don't have to pay anything to Lewis. Just
Hmm.
give us the property. You know?
Well, there's more of a reason why we should establish this kind of committee.
Yeah, I love,
Well,
I
and-
think
and
you're right about that.
So it strikes me that you've got, obviously Finance Committee, you've got the Parks and Recreation Commission, and then you've also got the Planning Commission who talks a lot about open space. So maybe a short-term ad hoc committee
Yes.
that would include representation from those specific groups and maybe some others to maybe prioritize open space and begin to talk about, what are the open space needs and interests, and then,
Right.
how would we think about paying for it, and kind of looking more at the big picture to get into.
But I think a committee is really important.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much money involved in land right now. We can't afford to make any mistakes and then have a legal action taken against us.
That's
Yeah.
right. Now,
So-
the other thing, and this is very premature, but in some communities, they actually have a dedicated open space tax. I know tax is by some people's term, a four-letter word. But, sometimes these things, if you put it in referendum form, so the voters get an opportunity, not representation, but the voters get an opportunity to vote for a specific dedicated open space tax. Now, I don't know how much that costs to do that kind of thing, but that would also be something worth considering.
Okay. What I'm hearing, oh, I'm sorry, Jim, you want to say something?
Just is there property identified as open space that the city's possibly interested in?
There's a blanket idea of this, that, and the other, but nothing solid.
Because there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of it.
No, but what I'm hearing right now is that this kind of committee can take us where we need to go. So I'm gonna propose this to the council. I think this is a great idea, and the very fact that we can utilize the folks that are presently involved in one way or another, whether it's from the planning commission or whether it's from Park and Rec or whether it's from us. I think we're sitting on an opportunity here that we're not really taking advantage of, and I want us to do that. And I thank you for your ideas. Absolutely, I appreciate them. And they are very, very much something that we should look into. So thanks again, guys. You've been champs today. I appreciate it. Okay, with that, we're gonna talk about our next meeting. We'll come up with future agenda as we go along, but I think when I leave out of here, I think this is gonna stay on my mind as it relates to making this happen. So look on your December 14th, see if that works for you.
That's not the.
Okay.
That doesn't work for me.
What,
I'm sorry.
let me see what it is. I don't know if it's gonna even work for me.
That's a Wednesday.
That would be, yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesdays don't work for me, so that takes care of that. Okay. All right. The ideal thing would be to pick out a date right now, but it never really works. So I really just give it
Oh.
back to EL.
Well, I mean, so here, if you all do want to meet before we get
I think
into heavy duty budget season,
because
it would be good to get it set now. We can't meet the 15th because capital projects is meeting.
and we can't get into January. We get into budget January, February, we're rolling. So
So you, either the first week or the right before.
and then we run into the holiday. So we don't want to get into the holiday week.
About the 13th.
So it's either going to be in the 12th or the 13th, either one. No, you just said that, didn't you? Any one
12th
of
is a
those?
council day. I'd prefer not.
Yeah,
to
but
do the 12th.
yeah.
It's up to you guys.
How about Tuesday, the 13th? What does that look like?
That's good for me. Is that good for
Good
you?
for me.
Can we do it around this same time? Like
Yeah.
9:30 or 10?
I'm out of town from the 2nd to the 14th. So don't count on,
Yeah,
work,
and-
work around everybody else's schedule.
I would, except I need your thoughts as well. Okay, we started on,
Okay, so what about if we look at the first or second week in January?
are we in our budget stuff yet?
We still have time.
Oh, okay.
because it's before council looks at the budget, and by that time, we've started to, kind of put some things together. So, if we do want to talk about possible new revenue sources, because I mean, again, we're seeing
Okay.
flat
Oh, thank
revenues,
you,
so
but I was getting
Yeah,
this to write in my
flat
book.
revenues and rising costs. So
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to January then. Okay. Okay, you want to start with the first week of January, sort of third, fourth, or fifth? Anybody?
How about are you free on the fourth and the fourth?
That would work for me.
That fourth works for me.
Yep, we have scat dinner that night, but other than that, we're good.
Wednesday, Carolyn, is that okay?
With this, I have to do that.
Okay.
So let's say January 4th, same time, 10 o'clock.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay
Yeah.
with me.
How about you? Richard, you good?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Okay, I think we've accomplished what we needed today, which is quite a bit. And I want to thank you for your time. And I'm available all the time. So if you got anything, just pop me an email. And as far meeting as far as I'm concerned is adjourned. And I thank you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.